Hi, I'm Stuart from HiFi PiG. We're here with Jonathan from Michell, who you will know. Just to give a bit of background detail of this, I nearly bought a Michell Synchro back in the late 80s, and it was a dream turntable at that time. And you guys are now in your third generation of you're a family business.
You're a family-run business, yeah. Yeah, like you say, third generation now running the business. Some of the oldies are still involved, but yeah, we're trying to bring things forward and move on and do some new bits and pieces.
Are you mainly famous for obviously turntables?
Yeah.
So what turntables do you guys do?
So our current models are they begin with a Technodeck, which is an unsuspended turntable. And what it is actually a stripped down version of the gyro you see here. The gyro deck was introduced in 1982. It's a suspended turntable skeletal design. The thinking at the time was that a lot of turntables, or most turntables, came in a wooden box. Anyone that plays guitar or knows about wooden instruments, that will resonate, especially if you've got nice speakers in the room. So strip all that away, and that takes one of the biggest limiting factors of a turntable away.
But you're basically an engineering company.
We are an engineering company, yeah. I mean, we started over 50 years ago. We began as an engineering company, making all sorts of bits and pieces. We made props for films and all sorts of parts. And a big part of our business was the audio industry. So we made. At one point, there was 80% of UK speaker manufacturers used our binding posts. They used our spiked feet. We made all sorts of bits and pieces in the past.
So you, at the Bristol show that we're at, you've launched. It's two products, but it's one product.
Yes, it's a bit. People have said, so why has the power supply got a new name? So this is the new product. It's the Apollo Phonostage, and it runs off the Muse power supply. The reason they both have two names, one, obviously Apollo, the god of music. He needs a good muse to go with him. The reason is that this product will lead on to other things.
Okay.
So the wording and the name will become more clear as we go through the year, put it that way.
You've got a power supply, which is the Muse.
Yes.
Why have you got a separate power supply? What's the thinking behind that?
So the whole design ethos of this product is, let me take a step back. So we looked at what is the limiting factor of most Phonostage units, and it's noise. Noise will completely wreck a good Phonostage, or the signal, sorry, from a good turntable. So keeping noise out of the signal path became the driving factor behind why we've gone with the design we've gone with. So it's a two-box design, keeping the power supply separate. They're the noisy parts of the system. You've got a toroidal transformer in there and some high switching bits and pieces. So there's lots of noise generated. So to keep that away from the sensitive circuitry in the Apollo, just the simple thing is similar to what we did with the gyro, taking the box away to get rid of that limiting factor. If the limiting factor is the noisy bits, keep them in a different box.
So the actual box it's a single billet of aluminium, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's machined out of two billets of aluminium because they fit together in a clamshell.
Okay.
They're machined in such a way that they fit very tightly and they overlap inside, so that creates a very effective Faraday cage to keep the noise out.
How does that explain to readers?
Sure. So with noise, if you can create a metal barrier from the external noise with as little gaps as possible, that will stop wavelengths of RF interference, which is floating around all around us, from getting into the product. And it also stops the noise that's in there getting out. So that's why we've gone for that approach on the actual enclosure.
So you guys are famous for record players, obviously, but you did the Argo. Was it the Argo amp?
Yeah, there was.
Years ago? Monos.
We did the Argo. We did Phonostages, the ISO. We've had a couple of preamplifiers, the Electro power amplifiers, so they were monos, and we did a stereo power amp as well. So we have had our toe in the electronics market before.
So is this a conscious move back into the electronics, or will your focus always be turntables?
No, we do, giving away a little bit too much there, but we do want to go to expanding our product ranges. So yeah, that's...
And the link up with PMC distribution in the UK, tell us about that. How does that work for you guys?
So that's working extremely well. We're a small company, as we said at the beginning, we're a family-run business, and we just don't have the manpower to correctly service the UK market. So it was a logical decision. PMC, they're very close to us. We're close in two ways, geographically close, and close as in we share a lot of the same design philosophies, and we're an engineering-based company. So there was a lot of common thinking and a good tie-up. And the fact that they do distribution is, for us was a no-brainer. Let's go with them. They know what they're doing, and they can go out and peddle our stuff around to all the retailers and make sure that the public have got good access to our products.
I'm sure you're not going to answer this question, but what's next for you guys beyond Apollo, Muse and Turntables?
Good question. It is a watch this space answer, I'm afraid.
Do you think you'll do another Argo, or because I loved your amplifiers?
So we recently had in a competing media outlet, let's say that, they looked at our old electronics, loved them, and yes, we'd be silly not to consider that as an option. Let's put it that way.
So tell us a little bit more about the Apollo Phonostage. How it's moving magnet and...
Yes, so you can, underneath the unit there's a little cover. We've engraved all the setting details that you need, but you can basically tailor the Phonostage to cope with a moving magnet and
that's done
coil.
with little dip switches
Yeah. Underneath. Yeah, quite simple. Set and forget basically, but it's very simple to change it if you change a cartridge or whatever. But yeah, it's so the Phonostage itself, to give you a little bit more detail on the inside, it's got its own power supply as well. Not that you could plug it into the mains, but it works in conjunction with the Muse, and it further refines the power supply to the amplifier boards. And then we use some very, very high quality preamplifiers, which are more commonly found in professional microphone amplifiers, and they're really good at handling the tiny signals from the cartridge. So
there's a theme sort of developing between PMC, obviously on the professional side of things, and you've just mentioned that we are trying to be, or Michelle are trying to be as pure to the source as possible.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How, from an electronics point of view, which I don't know anything about electronics, but how do you do that?
So you trying to stay true to what the signal is, and it's not just obviously true to us. There's many manufacturers trying to do the same thing. You want to try to amplify that signal with as little amount of adulteration as possible.
Which is obviously why you've got the Muse as well.
Yeah. So we need to maintain the signal quality from that's being read off the disc. The cartridge, is producing these tiny voltages, all sent down to the amplifier. But at no stage do we want to actually change that sound. So I don't know if people know, but there's a circuit in a Phonostage called an RIAA equalization circuit. So that brings, when they cut vinyl, they have to lift the bass level and lift the treble to be able to cut the grooves in the disc. So we need to then bring that back down to a proper listenable, otherwise everyone will be thinking, blimey, this sounds awful. So you need to bring that and correct it. So we work very hard on the circuit to do that. So it's a passive circuit in the Apollo, but it's very, very finely tuned to give a flat response.
So have you got any plans to bring in Decker curves and all the rest because in 50, whatever it was,
Yeah.
56, 57, RIAA became the standard.
Yes.
So but the rumour is that not everybody adopted that standard thereafter. So have you got any plans to bring in Decker curves or any other curves?
So we haven't at this moment in time, and I'll tell you for why. Because the whole focus of this setup is noise. Noise is the enemy, and to effectively be able to select those type of settings, you can have them on dip switches, but it becomes quite convoluted. The ideal way is to actually have a display. If you have a display, that's a noisy item.
Yep.
So we're keeping those noisy items out. We've given you the minimum amount of adjustment you need to be able to tailor it to all your cartridges. 99% of the cartridges that are out there, but yeah, we have purposefully limited the amount of things on there. We could go and stick loads of different features on it, but we found that they all had a detrimental effect to the sound.
Well, I think, to be fair, I've got a Phonostage with a gazillion different settings, but I've not used them. I think they're superfluous to the listening experience in the main for the vast majority of people.
Exactly.
So how much does the pair cost?
So they retail for 3,500, including VAT in the UK.
For the pair?
Yeah.
Okay.
They come as a system, and
And the cable, we came to the press conference earlier on, and you mentioned that the cable that you've used has been specifically designed by a well-known manufacturer. Are you allowed to tell us who that is?
I can tell you who it is. It's called Electronics.
Okay.
So yeah, we co-engineered it. We went to them. We've got some knowledge of cabling, but for this application, we needed a specific cable. You know, these two items are doing a really, really good job, but it can all be undone by the cable that links the two together. So yeah, we went to them. They gave us a lot of information on what we need to be looking at, what the factors are within that cable, and yeah, we designed that cable specifically for the job, basically.
But it's moving magnet, it's moving coil.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all singing, all dancing, isn't it?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.